Coming up on Network Africa. Nigerians celebrate the arrival of the new year with a message of gratitude from President Muhammadu Buhari. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa appeals for continued collective efforts to defeat the coronavirus as the country ushers in the new year. Plus, after experiencing a year like no other in 2020, we'll take a look at what year 2021 is likely to be like. Happy New Year to you and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shoboale. It was a message of gratitude that greeted Nigerians from the president as they woke up to a new year 2021. President Buhari thanked God for seeing the country through the year 2020 with the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. He also appealed to Nigerians to adhere to safety protocols to stop the spread of the virus.
Hello, countrymen and women.
As the year 2021 begins, the number of deaths from COVID-19 in 2020 stands at 1,289. The president's New Year's speech begins with a prayer for the souls of those who died in 2020, especially as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We must also acknowledge the passing away of our brothers and sisters who didn't make it into this new year. May their souls rest in perfect peace.
In 2020, Nigeria turned 60, a milestone which the president reminds Nigerians has confounded the nation's critics who did not think the country would last this long. He speaks on the EndSARS protests, calling them understandable.
2020 indeed came with a lot of challenges ranging from security and economic issues across the regions to understandable protests that were mainly led by youth and served notice to the demand for police reforms and accountability.
Security, the economy, and anti-corruption have been the pillars of the Buhari administration since inception. The president has been accused of delivering poorly in these areas. He pledges to do better.
We recognize that we rapidly have to move to a more proactive and preemptive posture to ensure that these sorts of traumatic incidents do not become a norm. The anti-corruption drive of our administration, we have recorded substantial gains so far and this year. We are committed to continuing along the path of eradicating corruption through collaboration with all the arms of government to effectively prosecute this fight.
President Muhammadu Buhari ends his speech with a request, asking Nigerians to obey the COVID-19 protocols while his administration works on getting a vaccine, while pledging to play his part in moving the country forward. He's also asking for cooperation from citizens to promote the Nigerian spirit of oneness, togetherness, and unity. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Well, let's bring in African Affairs analyst Alester Wilcox for more on this. Alester, compliments of the season, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, and I say compliments of the season to all Nigerians and the world at large. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. What do you make of the President's New Year speech? Did it give you hope for the new year?
Well, as usual, the president, it's customary for the president to speak to Nigerians at this time. Moreover, haven't taken care of, haven't seen what we went through within the last year. And so he touched on the speech touched on every aspect that one expects him to touch on, especially recognizing the issues on the issue of the pandemic that came and upturned every known permutation and culture and things that we are used to. And then he touched on his cardinal objectives. Also took time off to touch on the EndSARS protests, just to give hope to the youth that it has not been forgotten or swept under the carpet, that he's still on top of it. So in all, I would think I would score the president's speech far above average, because it lends credence to the fact that he's still having focus. He still have the focus on his core objectives for the country, being the security, economy, and the anti-corruption crusade, which are the mantra upon which he came to power. And also recognizing the fact that Nigerians lost so much persons during the COVID, and also the EndSARS. These are some of the burning issues that we had on our plates. And so I haven't touched all of them in his New Year message. I think he gives hope to the effect that he still has his eye on the ball. And then let's see how the year comes out. So what he delivers within the year, we begin to assess it from there. But the fact that these areas were effectively touched in his speech means he still has his eye on the ball.
Yeah, but what would you like to see the Nigerian government do differently this year to compensate for the economic hardship of 2020?
Well, the government of Nigeria did not bring economic hardship on the people. The economic hardship came in as a result of the worldwide economic downturn, and for which, throughout the year, the government has been struggling with a lot of interventions to bring about succor to the people. I'm not talking about palliative. No, palliative for me is a no-no. It's something that I cannot even imagine. But in terms of other interventions, there are several interventionistic funds that the government made available through the CBN and through the social investment program to help Nigerians to overcome certain aspects of the economic downturn. We also see that the government also listening to, maybe at the right time, listen to people. The borders have been reopened so that to ensure free flow of trade and commerce for those who felt that their livelihood depends on cross-border trade. So that also has been done. And also then, we're not talking about the areas of trying to fight inflation, food inflation. And I think the president also in his New Year, in his Christmas message, talked about the attempt of the government to fight food inflation. Now, some of these things are man-made. And so no matter the effort government is doing, just like the president said in his closing remarks, in the closing of his speech, it involves the entire people to put their hands together. Saboteurs are within the system. And so no matter how thought out, no matter how good the government plans are, if there are saboteurs, it will not work. So the government should continue on this angle. Those interventionistic programs should continue vigorously and begin to check the excesses of middlemen and excesses of racketeers in the system, so that some of the economic woes that we have that are man-made, most of them will become abated in 2021. All
right, then, African Affairs Analyst Lester Wilcox, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa, and do enjoy the rest of your new year.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, in Lagos, southwest Nigeria, members of the faith-based community held their services online or earlier than it would usually hold. At some of the churches visited, congregants were full of thanks to God for seeing the last day of the year.
So shall it be as you have asked.
At the start of 2020, Nigerians didn't anticipate that the yearly tradition of holding crossover services on the last day of the year till the early hours of the New Year Day would hold differently. But the COVID-19 pandemic forced churches to either hold their services virtually or in low capacity and way ahead of the usual time. At the Cathedral Church of Christ, Marina, and Our Saviour's Church in Tafawa Balewa Square, the usual hymns and chants were sung to herald the new year. The provost of the cathedral speaks more on the prophecy for the year 2021.
God will continue to bless his people. And that is why he has promised us as a diocese that in the year 2021, ours will be a surprising victory.
The pastor and congregants at the Kingsway International Christian Center were full of thanks for seeing the last day of the year 2020.
2021 shall be a year of expression of your gift, expression of your grace, expression of God's beauty in the name of Jesus.
Although this year's gathering and service protocol did not witness the usual crossover chants and greetings that signal the new year at the household of God, the senior pastor of the church prayed for God's will to be done for the nation.
We are going through a process of fortification for that which is ahead. And so it portends good things. It shows that we're more than able to deal with whatever circumstances that we will face or confront in 2021.
The different kind of service elicits mixed reactions from worshippers.
It's a bit strange because you're used to doing it a particular way, but things have changed, and as children of God, you move with the Spirit of God, and that's what's important.
I don't believe that it has to go into the next day to make it significant, because we came here to pray for forgiveness and for a better year. You know, we want to put 2020 behind us and look forward to 2021. So I think we've achieved that.
Although this year's celebration is toned down, many are grateful to put the year 2020 behind and look forward to the blessings of 2021.
Well, in South Africa, the new year was ushered in a bit differently from many parts of the world. While addressing the nation, President Cyril Ramaphosa appealed for continued collective efforts to defeat the coronavirus and rebuild the nation's economy. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, reports.
Just like President Cyril Ramaphosa directed, most of South Africa ushered in 2021, lighting up a candle in honor of those who lost their lives owing to the COVID-19. Just candles, no wild parties, no fireworks. Because what a year 2020 was for the world. And who would have thought that the first, second and third world countries would be on the same live global ticker board for the very same disease? Who would have thought that the world, great and small, would be struggling to stay safe behind a mere mask? Are you happy? Very. Who would have thought that the freedom to be out and about once more would sometimes be an intoxicating experience? South Africa has been the worst hit in Africa, but the general wish is of hope and safety.
We all have plans and hopes and dreams for 2021. Perhaps the greatest of them all is the simplest. We wish for the new year to bring better health, stability and prosperity for ourselves and our families.
My prayer is that Nigeria knows peace, prosperity and progress.
COVID-19 taught us to adapt, and if you don't adapt to the new normal, life becomes very difficult. So let's practice agency and let's go get our dreams.
I want to encourage you to have a wonderful and a happy holiday. But to do so, please do so safely.
If 2020 were a song, this would be it. Jerusalem, South Africa's gift to the world, released in 2019, but made popular by this Angolan group's dance challenge. Jerusalem saw the world through the hardest lockdown levels. Mine are 2 left feet. But on this note, we wish you a wonderful, much more peaceful and happier 2021. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Well done, Betty. Nice moves. Well, still to come on the program. China and Egypt signed letter of intent for COVID-19 vaccine cooperation. Details in a moment. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on the program. Hope, peace, faith and prosperity. Those form part of the prayers of the heads of Nigerian's mission, 2 missions in South Africa, as the world celebrates the new year still in the grip of the COVID-19 pandemic. 2020 was no doubt a difficult year for the world, but they believe that with the world working together, 2021 would be much better.
God willing, it's going to be a very beautiful and prosperous year as we step out into 2021.
My wish is hope. Hope is around the corner. We thank God, you know, with the adversity that we faced 2020, in the wake of the pandemic, there is hope. Human being has always been resilient. We have always risen from one challenge to the other and become stronger. I think this is not going to be an exception. We know we have lost loved ones, but we are going to move on stronger, in years ahead. Thanks to, thanks to international cooperation once again, the work of health workers, and as well as scientists, who have worked so hard to develop the vaccines. I think with the development of the vaccine, and if we all elect to take a jab, I think there is hope for 2021 and beyond.
In the meantime, dozens of spectators lined the banks of Cairo's Nile River on Thursday night to watch a firework display that began at the stroke of midnight, ushering in the new year. Cairo's usually congested downtown streets were vacant as restaurants were ordered to close between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. and large concerts and other parties were banned. In recent weeks, Egypt has mainly depended on urging citizens to take precautions. However, many do not wear masks in public spaces and transport despite the threat of fines. In total, Egypt has recorded 138,062 COVID-19 cases, among them 7,631 deaths. Health officials say the real number is likely far higher because of the relatively low rate of coronavirus testing. Well, after a difficult year 2020, which was spent battling the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic fallout of the disease, Nigerians and indeed the whole Africa are hoping for a new beginning this year and an opportunity to recover all their losses. Our correspondent, Temitope Fagbemi, reports.
After a difficult year battling the coronavirus pandemic, the year 2020 ended with several countries, especially in Europe and America, administering COVID-19 vaccines to its citizens in a bid to halt the spread of the virus. However, there are fears that Africa may be relegated in the scramble for vaccines.
One of the problems you've got with these COVID vaccines is not many of them have been trialed in Africa. Luckily, AstraZeneca is one of the ones that has been trialed in Africa. But if you don't trial these vaccines in Africa, if Africa is not a part of the development, testing and deployment of the vaccines, there's a risk that they might not even work on certain African populations.
But the continent seems unwavering as several countries like Nigeria and Kenya have ordered millions of COVID-19 vaccines.
We cannot wait to see China sending millions of vaccines to Africa so that the Forum for China-Africa Cooperation and the Belt and Road Initiative, all this, we have to have healthy countries, to have healthy bilateral and multilateral relationship with China.
Hopefully, Africa, which has recorded far less casualties than expected, will overcome the pandemic in 2021. Meanwhile, the African Continental Free Trade Area begins operating this month after the COVID-19 pandemic led to the rescheduling of its original launch date. The Continental Free Trade Zone becomes the largest new economic bloc since the creation of the World Trade Organization in 1994. It will bring together 1.3 billion people in a $3.4 trillion economic partnership. In consideration of this, Nigeria, which shut its land borders in 2019, has reopened for business. Policy experts believe lifting the blockade will help check the recession, the nation's worst in decades, and ease the economic hardship facing Nigerians.
The major aim of ECOWAS is trade. And we have signed the Continental Free Trade. We don't even have the soft or the equipment to compete. And if we now talk of benefit, what has been the benefit of the closure? So if customs say they are benefiting, what of the export side of it? For you to say balance of trade, balance of payment, it is not one side. Have we invested heavily in Apapa Port?
Also, the African Development Bank forecast that Africa's economic growth could rebound in 2021, provided that governments manage the COVID-19 infection rate very well. Away from the economy, Nigerian university students are hoping to return to school after the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, conditionally suspended its strike in December, ending a protracted industrial action that started since March 2020. However, it is not yet clear when federal and state universities will reopen due to the COVID-19 restrictions that have been put in place to fight the second wave of the pandemic.
NEC resolved that the current strike action by the union should be suspended conditionally with effect from 12 a.m. Thursday, 24th December 2020. However, should government fail to bid its own part, to fulfill its own part of the agreement, ASU will resume a suspended strike without any notice.
In the meantime, the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, has rejected what it calls the lopsided sharing formula that the federal government negotiated with ASU. The association is also threatening to down tools, except the federal government corrects the imbalance. Finally, security is paramount not only in Nigeria but for the West Africa region and the continent as a whole. According to the International Crisis Group, Boko Haram is both a serious challenge and a manifestation of more profound threats to Nigeria's security. Therefore, the federal, state governments and the region must develop and implement comprehensive plans to tackle the crisis. In addition, there is an urgent need for the African Union's Peace and Security Council to improve its dialogue-centered approach to conflict prevention and resolution of conflicts. Though it did not achieve the Agenda 2063 flagship initiative of silencing the guns by 2020, 2021 marks another opportunity to achieve this target. Temitope Fagbemi, reporting for Channels Television News.
And finally on the program, China and Egypt have signed a letter of intent for COVID-19 vaccine cooperation. Chinese ambassador to Egypt, Liao Liqiang, signed the letter on behalf of China's National Health Commission, with Mohamed Hassani, Egyptian Assistant Minister of Health for Public Health Initiatives, also appending his signature. Mr. Liao says that the signing of the letter will strongly promote the cooperation on research, development, production and use of coronavirus vaccines between the two countries' relevant institutions. He adds that China and Egypt have helped each other amid the menacing pandemic, and the signing of the letter of intent is the embodiment of the joint efforts by China and Egypt to build a healthy community. On December the 10th, Egypt received the first batch of a Chinese coronavirus vaccine to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's the program again. That's the program for today. Wishing you a happy new year once again. I'm Teniola Shabuale. Thanks for watching.